Commissioners, are there any other items you'd like to add to the agenda for our briefing meeting this afternoon? All right, then we will follow the agenda as published. The first item on the agenda is the solid waste franchise agreement, and Dane Peterson is here to help us get started on this.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good afternoon. We are here to provide an update on a new solid waste and recycling franchise contract agreement for unincorporated Buncombe County. And we appreciate some of FCC's key staff members being here with us today. They're actually going to kick the meeting off with a presentation, and then I'll come back up following that and talk about some of the contract parameters and also what the board can expect as far as recommendations from staff for approval of the contract. So turn it over to FCC.
All right, sounds good.
Perfect. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Dan Brazel, Chief Operating Officer for FCC. First off, grateful to be here in front of you all today to tell you about our company, introduce ourselves, and why we look to be a key partner for you in the future if you choose to go with us for your solid waste needs. I have with myself here Luli Escar, Rob Canciamelli, and Charles Merkley from our team. They're going to be going over really the details of our company and why we believe we're a great fit for your community and servicing your residents. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Charles and appreciate the time today.
Good afternoon, Chair, fellow members. Again, my name is Charles Merkley. I'm the Director of Municipal Sales and Contracts for FCC North America. And we want to tell you a little bit about our company. We heard that. So what is FCC? We started back in 1911 in Barcelona, Spain, and we still currently collect that contract today as we grew throughout the years. And we can collect the garbage anyway, and we might need a mule and a backpack a little bit here in some of the roads, but we'll get to it. But we have the modern day. We have over 1,500 electrified trucks in Europe and hybrid CNG, and we're slowly bringing that technology here to the U.S. So a little bit more about the global, 124 years, as I said. Over 60,000 employees worldwide, 30 countries, and you can see our revenues and EBITDA, and I don't need to go through that. You can see that. We have many different lines of business, but the environment, as we call it, we're the environment division, and it's the largest sector of our FCC group. That gives you kind of a view of where we at, looking at it visually. We started back in the U.S., as you'll see on this slide. 2015, Orlando area, which is Orange County, Florida, gave us an opportunity, and we made the best of it, and that was 2016. And here we are standing before you today in 2024, and we've had that the first, and now we're over 50 municipal contracts. In all these states you see, Florida, we do a lot in Florida, very municipal driven, very franchise driven. You can see Texas as well as Omaha. We just recently were awarded 3 contracts in Florida, one in St. Paul, Minnesota. So we go to where we feel it fits our business strategy. And you can see we cover all 48 states and Canada as well. So again, it's just more of the overview. Just for what we collect in the United States, over 12 million Americans now. We've grown to over 2,000 employees, 1,500 trucks, and we did that all with sustainable growth and smart growth. And we took our time in each project, and hopefully staff will translate to you our technical documents. We're very thorough on what we do. We know your city your county very well. We've been on most every, I can't say every road, but most every road, and have a strong idea of what type of specialized equipment we will need when it comes to four-wheel drive and garbage packers. So with that, I think I turn it to Rob here. We'll talk a little bit more about the details.
So
in addition to the excitement that FCC is bringing to Buncombe County, we wanted to touch more on what else we'll be providing. The first part is a service developed with Buncombe County in mind. The roadways, the more remote areas. You can see here with the park hand trucks and the four-wheel drive 8 cubic yard trucks. These are smaller trucks designed specifically to reach those areas. Over $17 million in investment. That's carts, trucks, and a facility located here in Buncombe County. Fully local and dedicated customer service. We don't share personnel between contracts. They will be solely dedicated to the Buncombe County contract, educated on the contract so that they can assist from start to finish. And an industry-leading compensation package. So in addition to studying the rates, we developed a competitive wage, an hourly rate, overtime after 40 hours. We have developed a sign-on and a retention bonus. So they get a retention bonus with each year that they stay with FCC. And also something unique that FCC is proud to provide is that, with most companies, it usually takes about 90 days to get your benefits. Our benefits start on the first of the month. So hypothetically, any employees that would like to transition with the contract, they could work the rest of the days through the contract, and they would have benefits starting day one with us. So there would be no miss for them whatsoever. It helps alleviate, takes that problem away for them. And Luli will touch on this a lot more, but community partner to enhance awareness and participation. Reliable rates for the residents. I'm sure Dane will get into more, but no CPI for the first 2 years as outlined within the RFP. And service-focused technology we'll touch on here in a bit. But it's easy to put technology on a truck, especially with how much it advances over the years. But it's really that specified focus on how will this help us increase our success level with the service at the curbside. Charles touched on it, but we've had a lot of contracts, and with a lot of contracts comes experience in transition. So we've had transitions that have lasted a year. We've had transitions that have lasted 2 months, 3 months. So we're definitely happy with the timeline for Buncombe County, let's say. We'll have no issue. We've already done a lot of the legwork of that transition process, like finding a facility, securing the trucks, so that January 1st will be no issue whatsoever. And we've listed just a few of the contracts that we've received, in addition to asking for feedback and asking how we can improve. These were unsolicited letters that were sent back to us from these communities. So City of Omaha, thanked us for our seamless transition, 150,000 homes. Palm Beach County, 111,000 homes. Port St. Lucie, Florida, 84,000 homes, and the Village of Wellington, 24,000 homes. And again, just to touch, I won't read each line item here, but these are just a few examples of some of the larger communities that we've transitioned and have been successful day one walking into the contract. City of Palm Coast, the City of Port St. Lucie, as I said on the prior slide. And then these two are in particular, Omaha, Nebraska, and Palm Beach County, Florida, both involved a cart exchange process where we had to deliver carts prior to the commencement, very similar to what will be occurring here in Buncombe County. So, through that, we've learned from a lot of A&D, assembly and distribute companies, as well as picked up strategies on our own so that we can provide those to Buncombe County with no worry. And again, these are, with RFP processes, they ask for, feedback from your current partners. And these are just a few examples here. You can see this really speaks highly of our site teams and the philosophy that FCC puts into providing service, complete tens across the board here. And so I know Dane will probably touch more in depth here, but this is just a summary of what FCC is excited to bring to Buncombe County. For the basic service, 1 time a week trash collection. We're also going to have at the start what we call two free extra bag limit to be serviced, so that if they do have overflowing garbage, they'll have 2 tickets or 2 tags they can put on the extra garbage bags. put it beside the cart, and we'll put those in the cart and dump that. That's going to be coming out at the commencement here. Every other week recycling, on-call bulk collection. For the premium service, you saw the park hand and you saw the four-wheel drive truck for the drive-up service for all the participating residents. The low-income discount, so for 700 residents, it'd be a 15% discount off the base rate. Try to give back as much as we can wherever we can to the county. And bear-resistant carts, I know they're here currently, and we want to continue that because we understand, that it's definitely one ease of mind for, for definitely other things, right? So they'll be brand new. Residents will have the option to either purchase or lease, and those will be maintained by us throughout the contract. And I want to touch on just the top part here before I hand it to Luli. Third Eye GPS, this touches on the technology piece that I was referring to, where it's completely service focused. So this is, while we use the GPS not only to track our routes, but it also comes with what's called positive service verification. And so it states when the truck has stopped and has serviced a container. And we use that immensely. So to gauge how far a truck has been through a route, et cetera, right? To let a resident know he'll be there soon, or we were just there, we can turn around and come back, that type of thing. But a really important piece, and that's just as the partnership to Buncombe, we allow untethered access of this to the county staff. So have our own logins, you'll be able to log in here, look through the system. You can call us and say, hey, why is truck 102 over here doing this? Well, let's find out, right? So that type of thing. So it's just another way to improve that service here in the county. With that, Luli.
So good afternoon. So public relations, public involvement, community affairs is very important to FCC. Communicating to our residents, being a partner with the county is extremely important for the transition. We plan on doing a lot of communications through social media, through the county, through our website, welcome packages that we'll be giving out to a lot of, to a lot of the residents, so they understand how the new service will be, so they understand the pickup. Our customer service will be real people answering the phone with questions. Being a partner, having this partnership is the utmost important thing. We get calls all the time. They like to know that we are real, that we're answering the phone, that our senior staff is available. They're available to the government, to our elected officials. They're available to the administration, everywhere from the CEO, the COO, vice president level, and management middle. We're answering our phones. We're calling people back. We're letting them know that we care, that we're there, that we're in the community. We do a lot of charitable work in the community. We partner with the county, with the United Way. We participate in parades. We go the extra mile to let our community know that we care. We're not just here for a year or two. We're here for a long time, and we become part of the community. So in saying that, why FCC? We're dedicated, solely dedicated to the services. We're local. We'll have local personnel that know the area, that have investment in the area, that know and care about your community. We have ample equipment, ample personnel, and they're high-level personnel. We care about our people. We hire good quality people. We train our people well. We care about safety. Safety is very important to us. No accidents in the streets. This is something that we engrave in our personnel. The proper number of routes. We've studied this, area. We care. We want it to be right. We don't want anybody to call and say we missed a pickup. We know that the routes, so we plan for the right amount of routes. We're environmentally friendly. We invest in our equipment so that we have green vehicles and we care about the environment. That's what our company's all about. We're innovative. We use a lot of good technology so that we have the proper customer service and that we know where our equipment is, so that we know how to find if we have equipment somewhere. So technology is very important. That we're leader in customer service, we really are. We have highly trained people that answer the phone and take care. And if they can't take care of it, it goes to a supervisor, it goes to a manager, it goes to a vice president, and even our CEO answers the phone and is available. And our community stewardship, we care. We invest back into the community, we participate in local charities, and we want to be your partner. So, and our price is very competitive, and we price our contracts correctly. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So discussing of course, the solid waste franchise 2025 contract, some of the key parameters. Contract timeline, again, as a reminder, this is a 7-year base term contract, starting January 1st, 2025, and that would carry through December 31st of 2031. There is a 1-year extension option available to the county if that is chosen to be used. For subscribers, basic service means weekly trash pickup and every other week recycle collection. So wanted to lay out a timeline. March 19th, staff made a recommendation to the board, and we were given approval to move into negotiations with FCC. And that has been a thoughtful and thorough process. We appreciate county staff and FCC's efforts on that. It's been very involved, to say the least. Of course, today, briefing this board, our target is May 7th, your first meeting in May, to bring a formal contract for your consideration for the first reading and approval. Per the ordinance, that would require a second reading. So if that is approved at May 7th, we would target to be back on your May 21st agenda for the second reviewing or second reading. And the following items below that are really deliverable items that we've laid out with FCC on information that we need in a timely manner. So at July 1st, we want to see a detailed transition plan, communicating with FCC and looking at their background with transition markets, even substantially much larger than ours. They do have the experience and have been successful in that. So we have a good feeling about that. Obviously, it's always a concern. It's a big project. There's a lot of carts. There's a lot of staff to hire. There's getting the equipment. So obviously, been very conscious of that, but I think that FCC is equipped to be able to make a smooth transition. September 1st, a contingency plan. So if things don't go to plan, we'd like to know you're thinking of that ahead of time to what that could look like as far as a contingency. It's, situations where trucks are having issues or parts or anything throughout, we want to know what the contingency plan would be. November 30th, FCC presents Buncombe County with schedule and route mapping for the service of the contract. December 6th, emergency plan. So an example emergency plan would be bad weather's coming or has hit us. What is FCC's plan on keeping service as minimally impacted as possible, and thinking of that ahead of time so we know what that plan would be to minimize disruption. December 20th, all proposed equipment shall be on site and prepared. Equipment meaning all the trucks, all the equipment needed to service this contract. December 27th, we want to know that FCC has run all collection routes and collection vehicles, so their personnel in their trucks familiar with the routes. That's the piece we want to understand that they've done. January 1st, contract begins, and all the carts shall have been assembled and delivered to existing customers by the start of the contract. So talking about rates, so basic service, like we talked about for subscribers, which is weekly trash, every other week recycling, the rate will be $28.65 per month. The premium service, which is an upgraded service, if a customer elects to do this where FCC takes a specialized truck, smaller truck up their individual driveway, back door garage type pickup, That would be $59 if they elected to choose that upgraded service. Bulky service pickup, sofas, white goods, refrigerators, those type things that are not going to fit in your standard cart, right? So that is scheduled through FCC, and that's a $25 charge for that per item. The bear carts, as FCC alluded to, we're going to continue to have the option for folks to be able to purchase a bear cart or to lease it. To purchase the cart's $320, one-time purchase, and then the monthly lease would be $10.16 additional per month. The additional carts, so thinking about if your household has additional volume, like with recycling, and you just need more space, this you can elect to add an additional cart to your service for $12 more a month. So that could help with your volume situation. The disability program, really synonymous with our doctor's note program that we have currently, and that will continue. So if a household provides a doctor's note to FCC that no one in the household is physically able to move the carts from their home to the collection point, FCC will provide that premium catered service at no additional charge from basic. The low-income program, this was something that FCC proposed to us. Limited to 700 eligible subscribers that are at or below 150% of federal poverty and or receive federal assistance. And the additional bag tags. So again, there'll be 2 in the welcome packet or initial packet going out to subscribers. And we also will have a program where, say you've got an event during the year, birthday party, you're anticipating more material coming from that you got to manage. You can purchase a bag tag ahead of that time, and FCC will sell those $3 per bag tag, and you can use that to be collected through your regular service. Some of the key pricing terms. So again, we've talked about that the first 2 years are no price increase on the CPI side. FCC shall be entitled to increase subscriber fees under following conditions. After the first 2 years, FCC shall be entitled to an increase in subscriber costs based on CPIU, urban consumer, and that is the garbage and trash index. Some limitations are included in the contract for CPI, and those would be the minimum would be 3.5% annually, or the floor, and that would also be capped at 5%, which would be the maximum on the CPI side per year. Other items that could impact fees beyond CPI would include landfill and tipping fees. If the county decided that we need to make an adjustment or increase in our disposal fees, then that is something that FCC could provide us information, documentation on how that impacts their costs to bring the material to our facilities and the impact on the service cost. So that could be another consideration on the disposal part of their business, how that's impacted for the board to consider. And the third bullet there is in the event of federal, state law, or local ordinance requires FCC to comply with additional regulations or work for trash pickup beyond what is laid out in the contract. So things beyond FCC's control as far as federal law, state statute, those things that would increase the cost across the market and impact their costs as well. So CPI increased projection. So again, we've talked about those other areas where if landfill disposal fees increase, this could change or modify this schedule, but we wanted to provide, just based on CPI, what the range could look like with the low or the floor being a 3.5% increase and the cap being at 5%. So, 25 and 2026, the rate would be 28.65, no CPI increases there. And then, as you can see, the chart in the middle is 3.5%. If that were to be the floor each year, you can extrapolate that out and see in 2032, in the extension period, that rate could be at 35.22. And on the right side column is the 5% or the cap. If the rates were 5% or higher, that would be capped at 5%. And pending no other adjustments, that rate would be 38.39 in year 2032 with the extension. I want to provide some context as far as how the CPIU has been doing over the past few years. Obviously, I think it's reflective of other indices that we look at. It's increased, certainly over the past few years. So the last time that it was under 3% for that index was in 2019. So wanted to show the trend on how that's, what that's working towards. contract changes, so new compared to previous contract. This is a 7-year contract compared to one we're now was a 5-year. The 2-year, no price increase, but this one has the CPI limitations, which we didn't have previously. The low-income program, that's a new program with the 15% discount for eligible subscribers up to 700. The disability program, the terminology's changed, but that is a continuation of the doctor's note program. We are requiring an emergency plan, but again, we're also requiring a transition plan and a contingency plan. That's new to this contract. Free initial tags, but also the additional bag tags that'll be available throughout the contract if subscribers need those. No fees for replacement carts and 7-day deadline to supply cart to subscriber. There are some situations in the current contract where a subscriber could be charged for a delivery fee, or they could elect to go pick that up. We've worked to try to move away from that so that there's no fee for delivery of the carts in the new contract. And we also have placed a deadline for when the subscriber's making a request for a card or a new subscriber, that 7-day window starts, and we want that delivered to the customer by then. So liquidated damages, we will have liquidated damages in the new contract as well. Things like, it's really performance accountability for the contractor, and so like missed service, those type things that we get reports on, and we can assess punitive or monetary penalties if they're not meeting the metrics there as far as service. But adding to those liquidated damages, we've included not reporting spillages, leakages like hydraulic fluid, if that were to be an issue, and certain deadlines like not cleaning spillages or leakages within a time frame, not supplying subscriber with new cart by a deadline, not supplying any requested reports by deadline. Those are things like financial reports or subscriber count. If we request that as a county, how many subscribers, those type of things, we want that documentation as soon as possible. Operating unsafe equipment in our communities, and failure to meet contract start date. So I don't anticipate that being an issue, but we did include in the liquidated damages if services were not fully ramped up, ready to go January 1st, and there was any delay, that would be a $2,000 per day penalty. So, and also new carts provided. As Charles mentioned, that's the plan for FCC to provide new carts to all subscribers. Also, what's new with this contract is at the end of the contract term, specifically at the end of, if we choose to elect the 1-year option, the carts will transition to the county's ownership. So the carts will be sticker, am I saying that? They'll have a sticker on the side, so decal, thank you, April. So that can be, I think there's benefits with that in the point that the carts will have a 10-year warranty. If we use that's 8 years, so there'll be 2 years of effective warranty left on the carts in the field. And we would want to, in the situation where, a new contractor were selected and they're coming in, we'd want to set the parameters of that new contract that they will service the carts that were in the field, and also have a plan for replacing those that may not be meeting quality standards or wear and tear, whatever that might be. So it could really help minimize some costs moving into a new contract potentially. So the staff recommendation that you will hear May 7th at your regular meeting will be the recommendation of approval of the solid waste franchise contract with FCC Environmental, LLC. And as a reminder, 2 readings of that franchise contract will be required by the Board of Commissioners to make that agreement effective. So, thank you for your time, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions.
Hi, Dane. I just have a couple questions. One, can you remind me, how many subscribers do we have?
We have approximately, the number fluctuates, a lot of seasonal back and forth. So 35,500 to 36,000 was the last count that we received.
Okay. And also, what kind of things are put in place to hold them accountable? Certainly, we hope that the quality of service and everything that's being laid out will be up to those standards, but do we have anything if we're seeing that the quality, that they're missing, picking up trash or things like that, what do we have in place to hold them accountable?
Yes, ma'am, we do. So the liquidated damages, or the penalty section of the contract, we have different schedules of penalties, like 1 to 11 misses in a month, that could be, $100 per miss per se. And if we're seeing those and they're valid misses and they're not, they're obviously not collecting on the day of collection in that time frame, we're getting those complaints, then yes, there's recourse for action for the county to penalize the contractor for that. It also goes down from there to, if it's over that, if we're getting area misses, like 100 stops that are being missed, that becomes more punitive, the more homes or the more misses that we're receiving on that schedule. Of course, the staff will be working with the contractor, and the community, making sure that we understand the services being provided, and if there's complaints that we're getting that feedback. There's also a $1 million performance bond, Commissioner, so that'll be in place. That's something that will require FCC to secure. We do have, again, as far as the contract start date, if everything's not going, it's $2,000 per day. But there's also, leakage, spillage type of penalties. So we want to make sure that the trucks are in good working order, that things are being maintained, hydraulic line systems, seals, those type of things. So if we are having issues where there's spillages or, fuel leaks, things like that, there's penalties associated with that. So we do have that schedule in the contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dana, I have a couple of questions as well. First, I know they said compensation would be competitive, but what does that truly mean in terms of Buncombe County pay?
I'll defer to Charles on this.
Thanks, Dane.
Great question. So we do that study, the wage study. We have a real strong handle on what the wage study is now, the prevailing wages. And what we see and what we perform at is higher than the current rates in place today.
Can you give me specifics? in
Well,
terms of
if
where
you're,
you anticipate starting pay?
Sure.
And
if you're a CDL driver, it's anywhere from $26 to $32 based on your experience per hour for 40 hours, time and a half after that. If you're a helper, it's anywhere from 22 to 27. So there's ranges based on experience. If you're a rear load driver, it's anywhere from 26 to 30. Admin, the people that work in our office, it's $23 to $28. We don't, in all of our work, skimp on paying our people. They are the front people of our company. Happy people provides happy customers.
thank you. I'm going to ask a follow-up to that, but I do have another question. What do you have in place for a staffing plan?
We in our RFP proposal, we laid out all the staffing plan and the amount of people. We have 28 people on the staffing total, and that's all laid out. We have a piece of property that's already under a letter of intent. We looked at it today. We took our corporate fleet manager there to make sure that all of our trucks fit in there properly and safely, and God willing, in a signed contract, we'll have property.
And then my last question is, can you speak a bit to your transition timeline? You kind of gave some ranges. It could be 2 months. It could be longer than that. Being new to the mountains and our terrain and, steep driveways, et cetera, how are you factoring that into your transition time as well?
So from the beginning of the RFP was released, we've been in your county. So we've scouted, as I said earlier, most of all of the roadways. So we size the routes to the proper equipment. So we are coming with all brand new equipment, and the equipment is specialized. So what do we say by that? Well, simply, we have four-wheel drive vehicles that we use in Florida, believe it or not, and in Omaha. We have experience with the snow, and we have experience with the elevations. We'll shortly be going to St. Paul, Minnesota, and they surely get a bunch of snow. So we size the equipment and the routes and the people to make sure that we're transitioning properly. You asked how long. That's just some of the contracts we did. In this case, we have some more months. All of our trucks are secured. We have letters of commitment that's provided to the staff in the proposal. So the moment we have a side agreement, the trucks roll down the line and they'll be ready. We have not missed a start date or a truck date yet.
Our snow is a bit different than flat terrain. And I guess I'll have to dig in a little more to get a little more detailed answers. And Dane, once I do that, I'll reach back out to you.
Chairman, I've just got one question about, about bear carts while these FCC folks are here. I see your proposal for the bear carts. That's great. You know, in our community, I'd argue we have a bit of a bear problem. It's not a huge problem, but it's a problem and not one that I see any reason to believe will go away. And one of the problems we have with that is there's just not enough people across the whole county that have secure garbage. It's not specifically a residential problem necessarily. So I guess I'm wondering if you or your industry has seen alternatives to brand-new bear carts that are expensive and require a proactive homeowner to purchase one. If there's alternatives like extra hardware you could get that we could work with you to provide residents, that sort of thing, to make it easier and more widespread.
That is correct. There is some hardware out there. There's many different manufacturers that make different hardware, but actually Dane and I shared one. He shared one with me. It's a nylon strap that bolts on 6 ways, 2 ways, or 4 ways, however many straps that you want. And it's an interlocking device that can be added to a cart very simple and very easily and much cheaper than buying a $320 cart. I'll give you a quick experience. When I was here last, I stayed at a location that, and apparently the bear got into the trash. So I wish that cart would have had a bear strap on it.
And is that sort of thing, that sort of strap, hypothetically, something you could work with us to help provide or to sell, or it's not a problem with your equipment, I guess, is my main question.
Well, the key is that the customer unlatches it. That's the key. But when you buy the bear carts, they have gravity feed, so when they go up and dump, it opens automatically. So we don't, that's the difference in pricing. So it's our driver does nothing but tip the cart. But if you do the manual type strapping, we got to hope the resident unsnaps it. And, sometimes they don't, but believe it or not, in some of the areas we collect, we have bears as well. And we use bear carts throughout the United States. So they're all different, but the key is the proper mechanism when you dump in an automated or a manual dump.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, it sounds like that's all the questions for this afternoon, but we understand this is coming back for at least 2 more discussions. So thanks for the presentation. Appreciate everyone who came out today to update us on where things stand. Look forward to discussing further.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, Commissioners. The next item on the agenda is consideration of a letter of support for Advent Health's Certificate of Need application to develop 26 additional acute care beds in Buncombe County. And so this is really just for sort of commission discussion at this time. And there was a draft letter prepared by the staff, which I could execute, or,
It came from Graham.
okay, actually, it was shared from Advent, okay. Through the staff, thank you for clarifying that. And so Advent has requested the county provide a letter of support. They're obviously reaching out to a lot of other groups in the community to encourage letters of support. So this request came to us, and I wanted to just put it on the agenda to see if there are any questions or concerns about this or support. We did, as the commissioners will recall, we did provide a letter of support for a previous application for a certificate of need. And so this is for the new proposal. So any discussion or questions? If this is a consensus item, then we could place it on the commission's consent agenda for approval.
I would just like to say I support this. Hope that each of us will support it. This is less than 2 miles from my house in Weaverville. And it's very close. And I can tell y'all, as I've been out and about, grocery shopping, walking my dog, folks are stopping and are so excited about it. I had one person reach out and said, "Oh, I'm really concerned about this." And as soon as I reached out to Graham Fields at Advent, the question was answered. I was able to let my neighbor know, and not one single complaint. I think it's really exciting that this is going so close to where it can serve our neighbors across county lines, but also really providing 600 new jobs to our area, many of them career wage jobs that we're hearing we need more and more of. So from that perspective, I'm really excited, and hope y'all are as excited as I am to support this.
Yes, I'm definitely supportive. I hear from the community all the time that they're excited about this, having options, which is very good. And I always just think that anytime we do a letter of support, that, for our staff to look back over it and write it from our perspective is beneficial as well.
Also supportive. We need the competition.
Agree with everything that's been said. I'm excited. I think Amanda's more excited than I am, just a bit, but I'm also very excited. So, all right, it sounds like this is a consensus item, which I suspected it would be, but I'll sign it, but I wanted to sign it with the commission's full support. So if we could just add this could we add this to the consent agenda this evening, Mr. Frew? Okay, I think there is, so let's do that. All right, very good. That was easy. Next item is the Ferry Road Development Solicitation, and Tim Levis is going to help us out with this item.
Good evening, or good afternoon, Commissioners. Today, we're going to talk about Ferry Road next steps. A lot of activity recently, and today I have 3 big items to talk through. I'm joined by a couple folks who are going to walk us through this. We've got Sarah Odio from School of Government. She'll be with us virtually. So Sarah, we're going to do a quick mic check with you here.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you great. Awesome. Additionally, joined by Robert Brown. Y'all know Robert. He's been with the county for a good bit and will be talking to us about traffic and road construction. That said, I'm going to kick us off. Today, we're going to talk about key milestones in the project and then next steps. From our key milestones perspective, one of the big milestones was the rezoning of the property. And so that is now complete. As you know, we went to the city of Asheville. Property's been rezoned. We'll record those deed restrictions with the Register of Deeds and move on. Next up, though, we got 3 big buckets. So we got the developer solicitation. Sarah's going to talk to us about that today. Our estimated release, pending commissioner support, is May 12th, and we'll talk through that. Additionally, we're looking at designing the transportation improvements to the site. And so tentatively, we're saying we'll bring that back before the board on May 7th. It's possible we would go to the May 21st board meeting, but we're moving quickly on that. As you know, the site has some transportation road challenges, and that's a key ingredient that we think is necessary for the type of density we're bringing to the site. So we're pushing that forward. The final piece is the design of recreation amenities, so greenways, trails, things like that, has always been a part of the plan. And so, want to share with you today kind of where we're at and, get a little sense of from the board at what pace you'd like to move that forward. So those are our key milestones. We're going to jump into the master development partner solicitation. Sarah's going to take it away. I'm going to drive through the slides. So Sarah, just tell me when to go.
Okay, great. So as Tim said, this is coming up. Our goal will be to release on May 12th, so we have some time. We have a draft that we do want to share with you of this document. The key to the master development solicitation is that we are going out there to try to find a partner that can execute on this vision. So the zoning was giving a lot of flexibility here. It's the master development partner and who you pick that's going to be able, and their partners, that will be able to make this project work. And just a reminder for anyone here who's not familiar with the Ferry Road project, we are talking about 645 units, about 55% affordable, co-located with over 70 acres of conserved lands with greenways and trails. It really is, I believe, an exemplary project for equitable development. So next slide. So just to give you an idea of timeline. So as Tim said, if it goes out May 12th, we are looking at an August 9th deadline. We're trying to give developers about 90 days to put together a proposal. We are asking for a good amount. We're not just looking for qualifications, we're asking them to demonstrate how they can execute on your vision for this project. And so if this goes out next month, we're talking about an August 9th response. Following that, we like to take our time to help you all evaluate the responses. Our goal is to really break each of these proposals down so that you can compare them on an apples to apples basis and sort of strip away the elements that might be deceiving about how exciting it is and really get down to who is the partner that can actually execute what you all want, and who do you want to work with, right? And so we will help staff make a recommendation. They will make a recommendation to you all. That process should take about 2 months, but you never know. If we get a lot of responses, it could take longer. The selection of your partner is probably the most important decision that you all are going to make in this. And so you want to take your time and make sure you do it thoughtfully. After that, so once you pick a partner, the next step is to get this initial agreement in place, which is the memorandum of understanding. And that is not a legally binding document, but it is one of these agreements that's sort of saying, hey, over the next several months, we're going to work diligently together to get to a development agreement that we can both agree on. And that development agreement will take a lot longer to flesh out. And that is really going to clearly state the developer's responsibilities, their development partners' responsibilities, and you all as a county, your responsibilities in this public-private partnership. And I want to emphasize that as the development agreement is getting negotiated, that MOU is really opening you all up, is opening the developer up and the county up to do a lot of this pre-development work and really start spending money on the project. Next slide. All right, so again, I don't think I've clearly defined what we mean by a master development partner. We are going out there and finding one big partner who is going to manage the overall process. What that means is that they are likely to have individual partners for components of this project. So there's a low-income housing tax credit developer, there's a homeownership developer, but this master developer is really going to oversee all of those components, including the land development and making sure they find the right partners for that vertical development as well. So the solicitation is really clearly laying out your requirements and preferences for all of the private development. So a reminder that the conserved area is going to remain with the county, and that's going to be a different planning process, which Tim will start talking about at the end of this presentation, I believe. We are talking about the private component. And anything that is in this document, there are going to be requirements, and then there are preferences. The requirements are everything you've already seen so far that you all have committed to funding or providing funding for. So to be clear, you are a funding partner, not the funder. And then there are preferences, which are elements that we've heard through the engagement from you all that we haven't really been able to put a number on, but that we know is important to you all. The document will also describe the public-private partnership and the commitments that you all have already made. That includes talking about the land participation. It includes really clearly laying out the housing subsidies. It includes talking about your participation in shared infrastructure, including the roads. And it talks about the greenway system, which again will be separate from the private development. And so I'll pause there. Any questions about what that's going to say? I can keep moving. I can't see faces, which is terrible. So
I think we're good. So let's keep going.
okay, great. All right. So how are we going to evaluate potential development partners? So the master development partner. A successful proposal will demonstrate alignment with the guiding public interest. So I promised you all everything would come back to that, and it does. We are looking for a proposal that demonstrates the qualifications and the experience of the master development partner and their partners, so their LIHTC partner, their home ownership partner, for the type of project proposed. So they can't have a partner tied to the LIHTC development that has no LIHTC experience and therefore would not qualify for tax credits in North Carolina. We are looking for positive references from local governments if they have previously done a public-private partnership. These don't get done a lot, but if they have, they better give us a good reference. We are looking for their ability to deliver on the envisioned unified mixed income community. That really comes down to showing us the site plans and the financials. They have to demonstrate their ability to execute within a reasonable timeline. They have to include assumptions that reflect market conditions. So in order to compete, they might lowball certain elements and say, oh, we can get a 4% interest rate. We know for a fact today that's not possible. They would have to explain why they think they can get a 4% interest rate. And then we're looking at someone that will demonstrate their ability to adhere to an MWBE marketing and advertising plan. Now, these are requirements. The next ones that we're going to look at, these are preferences. They are not required. Again, we don't know the financial impact of these elements, but we would love to see them developers bring these to the table. That includes incorporating proven alternative construction methods. So if they can bring in some prefab home ownership models that are going to reduce the overall cost, we want to see that. We want to see new technologies that have been proven elsewhere, but brought to Asheville, more sustainable, more green products. We are looking for a partner that has experience with implementing an approach to maintaining the long-term affordability of homeownership units. We have previously discussed a land trust model. There are other models that we've gotten wind of, and we want to leave it open to the developer saying, hey, this is a model that we've used. And that's clear, we've used, or we have a partner that has used, that we believe can help keep these homeownership options long-term affordable. We are also going to clearly state a preference for adherence to LEED standards. This will point to the county's facility construction policy, which is really for public buildings, but we're going to ask that they show, if they can, adherence to these standards as well. Preference for the inclusion of renewable energy sources. Would love to see a stormwater strategy that's consistent with your comp plan, and going a little bit a step further with the MWBE, adherence to the state requirements for contracting. So I am going to pause there because I did cover a lot of ground. Anything, I think the top question is there anything that is missing that you expected to see here as criteria?
That's spot on. And just to chime in during the pause, so, these are just bullets we pulled into a presentation. The solicitation is much more hearty. There's a lot more language related to some of these items. So we'd encourage y'all to take a look at that when we send it later today or tomorrow. But definitely want to pause, hear your thoughts on anything else that you feel is important to the project to make it successful, but also reflect our community values. But also with the caveat, as we begin to add more to the project, that could have an impact to the project. And so just want to keep that in mind as well. So. If there's nothing, glad to discuss further. We will be back hopefully on May 7th. You'll have an opportunity to review the document, and we'd be certainly available for any questions or further discussion, but y'all tell me.
I mean, just one specific idea. I think this got brought up in some of the discussions with some of the city officials when we were going through the land use approval process. But the question was asked, and I thought it was an interesting one. I mean, we have a really strong commitment to high percentage of affordable housing in the project. I mean, that's really the main purpose of the project. And we're probably going to build one or two LIHTC projects and other aspects of that. So one specific question that was asked was, on the parts of the project that are rental units and they're market rate units, right? So they're not like dedicated for, different levels of affordability, lower 80% or lower AMI. Would we be open to the idea of looking at having a provision where the owner-operator of the market rate housing would accept vouchers in those units too, right? So I just thought it was an interesting question. I think our response was we don't want to have like a hard requirement to do that at this time because we haven't had a chance to look at how it would affect the project's economics. But, we're supporting the Thrive organization with funding, right, to encourage landlords in the community to do that very thing and kind of making the point that, look, like the rent you get if you accept vouchers is actually quite similar to what the market is going to do anyway. And in fact, it's got some advantages because the revenue is guaranteed and things like that. So anyway, I thought it was an interesting idea, and I would just encourage us to, look at that as we indicated an openness to through that process. So that's just one thing I would put out there. Any other?
I would love to address
yeah,
that actually, because we make a very clear statement in the solicitation. It's not a criteria for evaluating a partner because it is just going to be required, which is no rental units can discriminate against applicants based on their source of income. So that means that they must accept vouchers from voucher holders, which is different from reserving units in the market rate for voucher holders.
Yeah, so they won't be, well, that's great, maybe we're there. So they won't be reserved, which I don't think that was the request, but that they would be accepted.
Yes.
And that's huge, right? Because like most landlords don't do that. So that sounds terrific. All right. What else?
Can I ask, might be a little bit of an abstract question, but how big a field are we talking of people that might be interested in this? I don't know enough about the requirements to know for sure. Is this something that's going to solicit a good number of developers, or is it kind of narrow field?
Sarah, feel free to talk about your network and the conversations you've had.
So this is a massive project, and I would argue unprecedented with the level of affordability that's included and what that introduces into the project. So I don't think it's a huge pool. So if I compare it to something like a Cox Avenue development that is a very straightforward LIHTC development, I would expect you all to get a good number of responses there, 5+ easily. For this project, there is so much complexity that we would be really happy if we got 3 amazing responses to this project. If I'm being honest.
Tim and Sarah, thank you for engaging us so diligently from the beginning. I think that's why we are where we are today without a lot of questions and input, because you all have worked with us every step of the way to ensure that we're getting the best product that we can. So thank y'all.
That too. If no questions on the solicitation process, we still have a couple sections to get through. Like I said, if you think anything related to the solicitation or anything, just let us know. But again, we're planning to be back on May 7th to get your final kind of approval to move forward and launch the solicitation on the 12th. So next up, we're going to talk about transportation improvements. Robert Brown's going to join me. I'm going to kick us off. So when we talk about transportation improvements, this is the road network we're talking about. And, there's a lot of different roads on the site. We've got interior access roads. We've got exterior access roads. The responsibility of the county is not to build interior access roads, so that's not a part of this. However, the county believes and has always believed that how you get to the site is really important in terms of how it impacts the community. And so y'all have prioritized that since the beginning. And so we're looking at a new primary access road off of Brevard Road, as well as improvements to the existing roads, which are Ferry and Dry Ferry, which have long been pain points in the community. So we prioritize that. The way that we're moving forward is with Robert Brown's guidance. And so Robert, I'd ask you to.
So what he's saying is that's where the rubber hits the road? Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Admiral, Manager Pender. I've been tasked with the management of the building of an access road, which you can see in the kind of brownish color. Goes from Brevard Road to the heart of the new Ferry Road community, and also with required improvements to Dry Ferry and Ferry Road, which are contiguous to the property itself. The reason, access road, obviously, we have that need to enter into the site directly from the main boulevard, but we also have a secondary access requirement to be able to allow us to build the number of units in which Sarah spoke to. After a certain number of units, then you have to have accessibility, fire and safety-wise, in and out, in at least two major points to the site. The first and primary work will be the access road. It will have, it will be built to DOT standards. It will have 4-foot shoulders. It will have 2 5-foot bike lanes. It will have a single 5-foot sidewalk, and it will have a 22-foot two-way roadway. The Ferry Road and Dry Ferry Road require, due to the increase in traffic through the traffic report, it requires first surface improvement, curvature improvement, doesn't require widening, but you also have to manage the new curvature with a little more intensified stormwater management. And then also the shoulders, they're not very wide and they need to be improved for travel and pull-off safety. So the main scope of the project is the design of this primary road, of the new access, through construction documents, the design of the existing roads, ferry and dry ferry, construction documents. Along with that, they will define utility corridors. There's a significant part of this entire area is in conservation, or intended to be a conservation area, a large percentage. So the reasoning for going ahead and planning where the utilities can go is so that we don't damage that conservation basically decision, which I think is a very admirable decision. And then we'll have to deal with the right-of-way and construction easements, particularly on the access road. We are deeply into conversations with Biltmore Farms. They're very much on board with what we're doing, but we will have to complete that final road design to be able to complete that easement. You don't want to do it twice, so that's in place. Out of scope, as Tim said, is interior roadways. Those will be the responsibility of the developer. Sidewalks, as well as vertical structures and such. And the actual utility installation from whichever point of connection is determined, that will be part of the overall project and not Buncombe County's responsibility. The cost estimate for the new access road engineering and construction is about $5 million. It will be ARPA funded. The existing road, its design and construction, about $3.5 million. That funding is yet to be determined. The timeline, we've already completed the RFQ advertisement for the engineering services. We hope to be here May 7th to bring you a contract for approval. If we can complete the appropriate negotiations by then and get it through our system. Otherwise, we intend on being here on the 21st. September of '24, we plan to advertise for road construction bids. And then we plan to award for the apparent low bidder in December of 2024. These, Tri-Ferry and Ferry Road are both already DOT roads. They will continue to manage their care. The access road to the heart of the community, not the community roads, but the access road will also become a DOT road managed by the Department of Transportation. The intent and the requirement on ARPA funds is that we get the preponderance of that money encumbered by December 31st. So that's our goal. Any questions?
All right, thank you, Robert. That covers that. Our final item today, barring any questions from the board, relates to recreation planning on the site. So as a reminder, public recreation access, always been a priority on this project. Here we display the recreation maps, which include greenways and trails and examples of what some of those features could look like. These are just plans, and before the board, if we'd like to continue forward with recreation planning, our next steps would be to design the greenway system, to secure right-of-way with the city of Asheville, build more farms to extend down to Bend Creek River Park. Would need to design the trail, the parking solutions, the boardwalks, educational signage, and handle all the permitting since we're, on the river. As a cost estimate, we're estimating about $6 million in engineering and construction. Our timeline for this is TBD. We'd want to go through an RFP process. As I said to y'all at the beginning of this presentation, this is a really important part of the project, but not necessarily critical path as we think about how we create more units on the site. And so if this is something the board would like to advance, would look for some guidance from y'all on that. Otherwise, we can sort of table it and kind of come to it in the future. So wrapping up our next steps, so our developer solicitation, we're before y'all today. Hope to be back on May 7th to get your final blessing on that. That'll get us into the sequence that Sarah suggested, which August 9th, with proposals in hand, beginning our negotiations. We'll see how long those go. In terms of infrastructure improvements, we'll be back on the 7th or the 21st with a transportation engineering contract. And then with the recreation RFQ, we're TBD there, but just wanted to make sure you knew our status. So that's all we have for today. Glad to take any questions, or if there's any concerns or comments, welcome those.
So on the recreation planning, you were looking for some feedback?
If the board is interested in advancing that, would love to know it. If not, I'm going to focus on building a road with Robert Brown. But just want your guidance on if that's a priority. So.
'Cause I know we had some discussions about being able to go ahead and get access out there for the trails and the greenway, just when there were conversations. But so we're applying for, isn't it $4 million we're applying for the LIFT fund?
We have a $6 million grant application before the LIFT fund, and we'll hear about that on the 24th, next Wednesday.
Okay. And then as far as the bond funds, we do have greenway funds within the bond funds that we could also potentially look at, correct? I know our priority is the Woodfin Greenway and the Inca Heritage, because we wanted to get those to completion, but hopefully there's additional funds there as well.
The Ferry Road improvements are, in my opinion, and I believe the bond team's opinion, valid expenses, if that was the direction commission wanted to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially since we already have the land and we're not having, part of the slowdown on these other projects is the fact that we've got to get right-of-ways. And so we have the majority of this right-of-way, right? And then you've got a little bit from the city and maybe one other landowner?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm certainly supportive in looking at that.
Thank you.
And I guess just the current kind of general scope contemplated for recreation, would it be a greenway that connects to the existing Bent Creek River Park, or just shy of that, I guess is part of my question, or is Is that still up in the air, I guess?
No, great question. And the goal is absolutely to connect to Bent Creek River Park and then access the bridge across the French Broad River, which has a 10-foot multi-use path on it, to get into Biltmore Park West. The majority of that right-of-way needed is owned by the county. The other two landowners are the city of Asheville, which is a friendly partner on this, as well as Biltmore Farms. And so we fully believe that's a very easy connection to make. In terms of other recreational amenities, so the greenway is a main piece, but the trails on the property also, county-owned and a little bit easier because you're not dealing with pavement and ADA considerations, things like that. And then, we're adjacent to the river and seeing what opportunities exist there for not necessarily put-ins or access, but, viewing of the river, things like that, I think are all fair game. And then, of course, maintaining the conservation as well, which is a primary consideration.
I think everything that we have pushed for, when you look at greenways and all, since I've been on the commission, it would be a dereliction of duty if we didn't go forward with this. Well, we've got the land and all, and it's, that can be, let's face it, we can really use this as a showplace for the community to see what we can do. And in a community for all of the citizens, everybody would fit in there, have a place. And by that, I mean the people who could buy in there, rent there, or whatever. But to me, that's part of it. The greenways, the trails and all.
I agree with that. I think from the beginning, many of us have talked
Yeah.
about the view in and of itself that Ferry Road provides to a community that would typically not be afforded that kind of view. That to me is also the beauty of the trails and the greenways too, is it does provide additional amenities that many affordable housing areas don't often have the luxury of providing. So I agree. I think dereliction is a great word for that, Commissioner Whitesides. I think we should plug forward with it and investigate what we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I guess just part of it would be, one of the questions is, I'm looking at, slide 14, I guess, on the presentation that sort of depicts the future greenway system and trail system. And it envisions a lot of greenway development that's going to be like, paved greenways, fully accessible to everyone. And that looks great. There are a lot of kind of de facto just trails out there already. I'm sure people who live in the neighborhood probably enjoy it, as it is. So I guess the build out of the trail system, that will be something from a process standpoint. Will that be something that it's at this stage is that'll be a project the county leads on separate from the master developer who's going to be focused on the mixed use, like residentially focused project, right? So that's kind of our project.
Correct.
Going to be on our timeline. If we develop these plans and we have a funding source for it, that's something that we could say, let's go for it. Let's go ahead and even start building that infrastructure, maybe even on a timeline that, parts of this interface with the development itself, and it's kind of designed for the new neighborhoods to access the larger trail system. Other parts of it are kind of standalone and might be a great system of greenways we would build even if we never built any housing out there, right? It's just more to kind of public access for this new park.
Correct.
So, well, great. Well, for all those reasons, I'm supportive of it as well. And part of where my thinking was going, are there opportunities to even create some access opportunities in advance of like the paved infrastructure? Because there are trails out there now, and are there some like low-cost ways we could let people kind of start accessing it and enjoying it? I'd love for that question to be looked at. I don't know. The answer may be no, there's really not. But if there are, then I would love to see what might be able to be done even in advance of the more built infrastructure.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think our team would be glad to look at that and see what's possible, for sure.
Great. All right. Well, thanks to everyone for getting us to this spot. It's exciting, and look forward to discussing further.
Yep, thank you all very much.
All right, next up, 911 non-emergency call automation. And Lillian is here to help get us started.
Hi, happy 911 Telecommunicators Week. Alex had a personal matter to attend to, so I'm going to try to carry on for him. So forgive me if I've got to call the expert in the back. But just a little background on this. 911 receives an average of 565 emergency calls every single day in Buncombe County. 911 call centers, as you know, as we've discussed here, locally, regionally, nationally, staffing continues to be an issue, not just for us, but for everyone. And you'll see here, data that supports that. So what the 911 industry is doing is trying to figure out innovative ways to help our 911 telecommunicators answer these calls and be that first responder. So in addition to more than 500 emergency calls, they also are receiving more than 800 non-emergency calls every single day. And these range everywhere from how do I get to the Blue Ridge Parkway to where's my polling location to there's a bear in the yard. Where's my bear trash can? And so trying to figure out a way for our telecommunicators to really focus on that first responder aspect, especially when the call volume exceeds current staffing capacity. And so due to these demands of the job, our call takers have to evaluate and adjust how they're staffing and how they're responding to it. And so since this is not unique to us, we're seeing other people implement solutions in this space, and we've talked about this a little bit before. Amazon Web Services has a solution through machine learning. Machine learning is exactly what you experience every single day when you go and sit down and turn on your Netflix, and it says, based on your previous viewing history, we think that you're really going to like Band of Brothers. And so it will suggest that for you. And so what this machine does in our call center is take that exact same knowledge piece and help ease that pressure on those non-emergency calls. So by being able to use machine learning for non-emergency calls, we can relieve a little bit of that pressure point, allow those telecommunicators to do what they have been trained to do, and that's help people when they are in a crisis. So when folks call in, they'll speak to the machine. The machine will sound like a person, and they'll help take that call and divert it to, if they're trying to get to their polling location, they'll go to election services and they'll find that out. So it'll be an easy and fast transition. There's no impact to callers' privacy. Obviously, public record laws remain the same. The information that is collected during these calls doesn't go to Amazon. It doesn't go anywhere else other than our organization, just like if you call now. And so those machines really learn the patterns and then help move people in that direction. This is kind of a graphic that explains we're going to enter into a 30-day training period, probably in early May, maybe May 6th. And so the machine, when folks call one of those 4 non-emergency lines, this is not 911, I can't reiterate that enough. When they call one of those 4 non-emergency lines, the Amazon Web Services machine will answer the phone, they'll ask their question, and during that 30-day training period, they will then be transferred to a dispatcher who will ask them the same process, and that's how we train that machine. 800 non-emergency calls a day, a lot of training going on. After that 30-day window, the machine will no longer kick it to the dispatcher. The machine will have been trained and be able to alleviate a good number of those non-emergency calls and get them exactly where they need to go. So, important pieces to remember. 911 calls will always go to a live person. They will always be answered by a person. If you call one of those 4 non-emergency lines and you say, I need police, you will immediately be kicked over to that dispatcher to get your needs taken care of. So even if you call the wrong number, you'll still get that help that you need in that emergency. Those non-emergency lines are for Asheville Police Department, and we've shared this information with City Council in a memo, so they're they've been working hand in hand with us on this process. The Buncombe County Sheriff's Office non-emergency line, the EMS non-emergency line, and the DSS after-hours, holiday, and weekend line. Those are the 4 numbers that are going to be ported to this machine. We've seen other jurisdictions use this and use this successfully. I talked to the 911 director in Charleston. Certainly, they see a lot of the same kind of influx in tourists and visitors every day. And what they've experienced in the more than a year since they've implemented this is a 36% decrease in the volume of non-emergency calls that are being handled in their communication centers. That's a really big relief. Jefferson County, Colorado, 40%. So when I've talked to various people around the country, everyone has felt really good about their transition to machine learning and had good lessons for us to learn from in this. So next steps on this project, like I said, we'll begin training the machine. Won't be April 22nd, probably in that early period of May. Callers will talk to that machine first, then be transferred to a person during that 30-day window when they call any of those 4 non-emergency lines. And we're going to communicate this out to our other municipalities, our community as a whole, so they all understand. We'll continue that quality assurance monitoring. And following that machine training, that 30-day window, callers will only have to ask that question once. 911 will always go to a person. 911 will always go to a dispatcher. And of course, we want to reiterate, if you are in an emergency, always call or text 911. You can text 911. You will get the help you need. Questions?
Lillian, I'm just curious. When they were calling about the Blue Ridge Parkway, they weren't calling 911, were they?
They were calling one of those non-emergency lines, yes.
Okay, I thought, surely to goodness.
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Oh, they do, though?
They do.
Great, okay.
I mean, it's an emergency. We have to know how to get. Thank you, Lillian. I appreciate the presentation. When you've reached out to work with these other communities who are using this, did they see any increase of people utilizing the 911 number versus the non-emergency number so they get a person?
That wasn't something that they heard. What the callers were experiencing was that they were getting the answers to their questions and they were getting the help that they needed. So they weren't changing their behavior to then go to 911 to avoid it. So that was one of the key questions that I asked. One of the other pieces that we'll be working on with this is language access. So making sure that, of course, as technology moves so quickly, we can take calls in English, Spanish, Russian, and Ukrainian, but then being able to train the machine to then respond back in those languages will be a piece of this.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that forward thinking. I think we have to embrace technology these days, and I look forward to a 30-day follow-up to see how it went. I hope that's part of the plan, letting us know how the training went. Thanks.
And so basically, even if they call one of these non-emergency numbers, they're eventually going to get to a person. Like, it's going to direct them to, it's just going to assess where they need to go and then get them to that department.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I guess my question is about AI and the kind of third-party service here, which I hadn't even thought of until you brought it up. So AWS is Amazon's like AI service, among other things. I guess it wouldn't have surprised me if I had heard that if you use them, they use this opportunity to collect data and use it in the future for some purpose that they might not even have thought of yet. But you're saying that's not the case.
This is not their data. It is our data, and it will not go to Amazon. It stays with us.
Okay.
And I just want to be clear, it's not full AI, because AI makes independent decisions and goes a step beyond machine learning. This is solely machine learning.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Lillian. All right, Commissioners, last item is the volunteer fire district line adjustments. And Ryan Cole's here to help us out.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Pender. What we're going to talk about today is the fire district lines. We're doing a modification. This is only affecting 5 parcels. Both fire districts are in support of this, and so we will go through this just a little bit. Please bear with me as I read some definitions. I don't like to read slides, but in this case, this is the best way to get the information across. A fire insurance district is an area outside corporate limits with boundaries approved by the County Board of Commissioners for fire insurance purposes. It is not supported by either a referendum type fire tax or a special service district tax. So that is the fire insurance district. A fire service district is an area outside corporate limits with boundaries approved by the County Board of Commissioners in which fire tax is levied without referendum for fire protection services. Such district or districts may include territory within corporate limits if approved by resolution of the municipal governing body. If it sounds like I have read that before, I teach this multiple times a year in classes to fire chiefs talking about fire districts and insurance districts. So here in Buncombe County, both of those run congruently. And so the fire service districts, which is the fire response districts, and the fire insurance districts are the same. And that is on file with the North Carolina Department of Insurance Office of State Fire Marshal. So here we have 21 fire service districts and 19, which is covered by 19 different fire departments. Including 3 municipal departments and 1 area, which is in Leicester, that is covered by a Haywood County Fire Department because of how you get to that location. Because the only way to get there is not from here. You have to go in from Haywood County to get in there. And that's actually covered by Crabtree Iron Duff Fire Department. A fire insurance district may extend its boundaries to more than 5 road miles. However, beyond 5 road miles, you only are able to get the minimum insurance coverage there between 5 and 6. The fire districts have been established along property lines here in Buncombe County. As those property lines change, they get subdivided. We continue to move that around, such as large farms get turned into developments, then obviously that changes, and we have some that are mid-district, which is the case with the one we're talking about, which is up on top of a ridge, and it was a large parcel at one time and has now been subdivided down. The Fire Marshal's Office was contacted on September in 2023 by the fire chief at Rems Creek Fire Department because he had a homeowner in his station saying they're going to stop my insurance for my home because the insurance company, and the insurance companies do this on a regular basis, they'll go out and map out make sure that the homeowners or the homes are within 5 miles of a fire station. And this was actually a problem several years ago because one insurance company did not include any of the substations. And so that created more of a problem. But there's 3 residents which are in the Versant development community, and they were contacted by their policy owner or carrier, and they notified them that they would not be renewed in November because of them being beyond the 6 mile. And we have to be within 6 miles even to be covered as a fire district. So to give you just a little understanding, anything beyond a 6 mile is a 10, a class 10, which means that once you go from a 6, beyond 6 to within a 6, that's a class 9, then that drops your insurance by 40%, roughly. Once you go from a class 9 to a class 6 or below, which is what most of our fire districts are, that drops you another 40%. So you can imagine how much this affects those. And some insurance policies will not even cover anything outside the 6 mile, as this one was going to. And so the fire marshal worked with the communications, Rems Creek and Woodfin, to go ahead and change the response to these homes right then, which sufficed with the insurance company as long as we had a plan in place to make the permanent modification. Because they look at the insurance district lines that's provided by us to the state, and the state provides back to the insurance companies through the Department of Insurance. So this is now a formal request to modify the fire service district of Rems Creek and Woodfin District, which will also modify their insurance district, and board action and resolution by the board is required to move these district lines. So This modification of the service district will allow the affected residents to maintain their insurance, and they'll be getting the closest department because it's actually 4.5 miles for Woodfin to get to these residents, and it's roughly 6.5 miles for Rems Creek to get there. But it's just where it's at on the side of the mountain. So as we go through this, if you look here, right here are the 5 parcels that's in the yellow. The yellow is the Rems Creek district. And notice there's no roads that come up to that. All the roads are coming from the Woodfin side that's on the green side. Oh, yep. And so with this, it's about $4.5 million worth of property that's affected. Rems Creek will be reduced by $6,853. Woodfin will be increased by $4,816. The reason there's a difference between the two is because we have 2 different tax rates. Rems Creek's is just a little bit higher than what Woodfin is. So the homeowners might see a slight modification in their fire tax. Homeowners might also see an increased savings through their insurance company depending on how they were listed previously with that. Oh, I hit the wrong button. So now the report will become available through the clerk for at least 2 weeks prior to the public hearing. We would have the public hearing on May the 7th. Upon approval with resolution of the district and insurance lines being modified, then the modification would be sent to the affected fire districts, the North Carolina Department of Insurance, Office of State Fire Marshal, the property owners, and the Buncombe County Tax Assessor's Office. Questions?
Thank you so much. This will be on our upcoming agenda to approve, so thank you. Yep, all right. Commissioners, that's everything that's on our agenda, so I think we can adjourn our briefing meeting and we'll reconvene at 5 o'clock.